So today, Noteperformer 3 came out, and I did a video on comparing the sounds of Sibelius files and traditional MIDI sounds that come on normal computers to Noteperformer 2.5. Just wanted to make a kind of follow-up video to that, almost showing the sounds in Noteperformer 3, which I've played around with for a couple hours now, getting ready for this, and yeah, it's pretty good. Lots of good updates, a couple things that concern me a little, but might be fixed. So with that, I think we should just start getting into playing stuff. This was a recently released piece of mine. Wasn't commissioned or anything like that. It was just something I kind of wanted to do over the winter time, but didn't have the chance to because I was so busy with commissions and different stuff like that. But I've been able to write it and finish it up in my free time recently, and it's called Holiday Delight. It's kind of a It's a play on some classic thematic ideas in holiday music, but also contained within a completely new and original piece. So I'll just play bits and pieces, and we can kind of hear what it sounds like with this new update, Noteperformer 3. So we'll stop there. If you haven't played around with Noteperformer too much in the past, you probably won't notice too many differences. But if you have, you can definitely probably hear it. One thing I noticed was a big change in brass sounds, but especially the low brass. Especially the bass trombone. It doesn't get too low right here, but it's much better, and I'll show a couple spots in a bit to truly show that. Yeah, is this a much more full brass sound? The trumpets sound brighter and kind of more like trumpets. The saxophones aren't insanely loud. You know, usually you'd fix that kind of in the mixer because it was unrealistic and noteworthy. Noteperformer 2.5. They were just like louder than the whole ensemble, and it didn't make sense. Woodwinds, I don't notice too much of a change. Percussion a little bit. The bass drum is a little. It sounds, I mean, the last version sounded like a bass drum, concert bass drum, and so does this version, yet they're very different. It's interesting. This one sounds kind of like, I mean, it's more thuddy. It sounds like it's more deep, but it's also more damp. Yeah. The other one was more boomy. Even if you wrote damp, it didn't, change. It was just very, very resonant. Other than that, there's not that much of a big update in percussion sounds. There's a couple more mallet percussion you can bow now, and we'll play with that a little bit too. Other than that, there's not too much of a change so far. But I'll try to demonstrate some of the more elongated type stuff. Like here, the horns and saxophones come in to play kind of the main theme, which is A Holy Night, and then we'll get a more kind of beat 'em up type section right here. So that'll be interesting to hear in this new update. So you'll probably notice, as I was talking about, these low brass, especially the accented, fortissimo low brass, it's much more edgy, which is good because when you write that, that's the sound you're looking for. So let's just do just the brass and hear the update with that. So the brass in general just sounds much more full now, even through like this section right here. It sounds much more warm, much more full, and it's definitely an improvement. Let's hear just the Woodwinds. See the update with that. I always thought Noteperformer had the best saxophones for playback that you can plug directly into Sibelius and Finale and whatnot. I mean, this is just kind of an upgrade. It's nice. It's nice to hear. So now they're even better than they were, which is good. I always thought the Noteperformer oboes were a little sketchy. Oh, sorry. Clarinet. That sounds much more like an oboe than it used to. Obviously, us as composers, we shouldn't base anything off the playback itself, but it's definitely a tool to use, and you don't have to wait months or whatever to actually hear what it might sound like. And realistic midis is definitely it's a tool. It's nice. All right, so now we're switching over to a commission I am working on for this upcoming year, and it is it's more jazz centric and features some pretty good percussion. So you'll be able to hear some more percussion in this, specifically the drum set. So let's listen to that a little. And it's a more upbeat than the last one, even though the holiday piece is pretty upbeat. So yeah, I was mainly focusing on the sounds of the kick drum and the toms, and big improvement from the last one. The toms in the other one were pretty good. The kick drum was just horrible. It just didn't sound like a kick drum, and you have to, for some reason, go to the jazz drum set in order to get a kick drum sound through this. I actually haven't checked if that's a thing in this new one, but yeah, even still, it was hardly a kick drum. yes, the saxophones sound a lot better, which is good. The winds are lighter. It's nice. Brass continues to be more full. You can definitely hear the edge in the lower brass. But let's go more to a smaller piece, and we can focus more on individual instruments. Okay, so this is a piece I've been working on for a little bit now, and it's gonna be for the fall. It's a commission for the fall. It was written for Onsby Rose at Ohio State University, and it's just chamber winds and percussions. One instrument from each of the sections in the band, plus 2 percussion. It's an insanely hard piece. He's gonna get, he's having the best people from the university on it, so that's the idea. But it'll be cool. You can hear more individual instruments in this piece, so let's listen to a little bit of it, and you can hear the difference from the upgrade, hopefully, between the individual instruments. I should also say I apologize for the messiness of the last couple scores. They're definitely works in progress. This one's closer to being done, but it's not even a transpose score, and I still have to go through and clean it up. As you can see, look at that beauty right there. Yeah, the tuba actually sounds like a tuba now, which is pretty nice. The other one, it sounded like, I don't know, it had the effect of a tuba within the setting, but it didn't actually sound like a tuba on its own. Let's listen to the tuba line itself here. Yeah, an interesting thing. This was not the case before, at least not this drastically. Where it's showing it's being played is almost, at least in this piece, almost a full measure behind, so that's odd, but I don't really care too much. So alright, so now we're going to this section where instruments kind of build on top of each other. It'll be interesting to hear, and specifically some new instruments. The trumpet and horns pick up percussion to play, and the marimba enters here, and so do the congos, and you're about to get some very low drum playing. Yeah, they still don't really have flutter tongue down exactly, and they do have a plunger sound now, and it's different than open. It's barely different. They added a couple more mutes, and same with the harmony mute. They don't do open to close effect. So this is very much a close to open plunger, because if it was closed, it wouldn't sound like that at all. So this is the second to last piece I want to feature. Each piece has kind of a different style, and I think you can learn a lot about the sound behind this new program from the different styles itself, because each style has different kind of orchestration. So this is a kind of the sound is kind of inspired from Daft Punk, but that's because their sound is inspired by funk in general, and this piece is as well. So we're coming out of the slow middle section here, and we're gonna go more into the funk, and I might jump around, we'll see, but I want to hear like these legato brass and the volume getting quiet here to loud by over here, so that'll be interesting, and then hearing the transition back into quick. So we will start right here. Much more warm. So it's just starting to pick up there. I'll kind of get over to the point where it really starts to take off, and then I think I'll play it out to the end. Be about a minute, maybe two. So this piece is one of three pieces featured in a consortium that's going on right now. The buy-in ends September 1st. You don't have to pay until December 1st. And it's only $90 for three pieces, three composers, one piece each. And I'll link that in the comments below. Okay, so this is the last piece I want to feature. And then I might actually go into a little bit of choir and strings, though I typically don't use them because I'm more of a band composer or chamber winds. But this is a piece I'm working on for the Dallas Winds Fanfare competition, and it's pretty heavy brass, and that's essentially the biggest update of the Noteperformer. So I want to feature this a little, and I'll just play a little bit. I'll probably stop a minute in and maybe play the last minute or so. So enjoy. Alright, so except for the beginning, the brass was pretty tame there, so I'm gonna skip ahead to where it kinda goes all out. It makes me so happy that the bass trombone actually sounds like a bass trombone now. I always would kind of manipulate the sound just for playback's sake, if I were to ever release playback, to try to get the bass trombone to come out more. Sometimes I'm noticing now more than earlier when the trumpet is really going hard, kind of, you know, double F and especially accented, sometimes it can sound a little fake. Well, I mean, they all sound fake, but faker than normal and possibly faker than before. But as with any new product, I assume there will be updates in the coming months. Now that this is in lots of people's hands, a lot of people are going to play with it and they'll give feedback, so that'll be interesting to see. Now I want to play with some choir sounds and strings. Okay, so this is I had a commission that kind of fell through. Their band had some issues. I won't name any names. Alright, so this is a piece that I wrote for 8 trombones or trombone choir. It was transcribed from a wind band version that I wrote. And it was a commission actually like a year and a half ago. It fell through. Some different things happened that was kind of out of our control, but it is what it is. I just, for fun, right now, went through and changed the 8 trombones into 2 sopranos, 2 altos, 2 tenors, 2 bass. Let me change that. Bass. There's a couple range things. Uh-oh. Major range here. They're a little high or a little low, whatever, but the whole point is just to hear the choir itself. This isn't how I would typically edit these kind of problems, but for the sake of doing this, I'll skip around again, but let's kind of hear how this sounds. I'm curious, I haven't heard this until right now. That's interesting. Obviously, this wasn't meant for voice, but kind of through like this section right here, sounds pretty good. The slurs sound pretty good. When you start getting their unrealistic expectations of range, then it starts sounding a little funky. But yeah, it's actually a lot better than I thought. There's one section I really want to hear, and we're gonna do that right now. And yes, the soprano right there is a bass clef. Most are. Yeah, the build-up was definitely pretty. I almost, since the commission fell through, kind of want to write a choir version of this, make it actually work for choir and not have bass clef everywhere. Yeah, when it hit kind of the climax of the piece, the balance was off in general, and you could definitely tell the bass was like going ham. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's a big improvement from their previous sounds. Because it sound like a real person singing. No, it's definitely further away than how their brass sounds sound like to a real brass player. But I mean, compared to any other sounds besides Vienna that you can plug directly into Sibelius Finale or Dorico, this is by far awesome. So let's go to strings now. Okay, so when I was in college, I wrote this for a reading. It's a pretty cool piece. I still have the reading on my SoundCloud and website. I'd love to get, like a real performance of it, because I think it's a pretty cool piece. It's slower. It's pretty cinematic, especially the second half. I'll just play around with some string parts. I'll play some full orchestral parts in a bit. Actually, sadly, the strings don't have biggest part, but we'll hear some pizzicato things here in a bit. So let's hear this. The tremolos are going to sound a little slow because of the tempo, but I wanted it to look correct. Sounds pretty good. There's not much for them to do here. We'll have them play here. let's hear them interacting with the whole ensemble there. Yeah, they sound pretty good. Bass trombone sounds great. The trumpets kind of are... I'm sorry. You know, it might be because live playback is on, yeah. They seem kind of wah-y, like wah-wah. And, you know, maybe if they were a bad player, that would be realistic, but in this setting, that wouldn't happen. So let's hear this part again. Without low, you should always turn live playback off with Noteperformer, apparently. That's what they say on their website, so let's hear if there's a difference. I don't know, the attack, it seems to kind of wah into it, and I don't really like that. You know, if it was a real ensemble I was in front of, I would get on them for that. But it is what it is. I actually have a chamber orchestra piece, with more to do for the strings, so we'll listen to that. So I also have a recording of a reading for this piece. Pretty cool. I actually might get a performance of this year. Waiting for confirmation on that. You know, pretty much anything I've written with strings doesn't get that many performances, like my band music, but I guess that's life. I won't complain because I'm very fortunate with where I am in band music right now, but yeah, I'd love to hear this piece perform more, but yeah, the strings have a lot more to do here, so let's just listen to that. the string sounds are improved a little. They already had pretty okay string sounds as long as you weren't going crazy with them, and then they started sounding pretty unrealistic. One thing I kind of forgot to mention, and I'm glad I picked this piece, because none of the other pieces have had piano in them, but the piano now sounds better. The old piano sound always sounded a little muted. Not that it was, not in like it was quieter. It just sounded almost like damp, which I don't know if that makes sense, but it sounds like a real piano now, which is nice. Let's hear this. I will say something that's kind of a bummer is the snap pitches are a lot quieter than they used to be, which is actually unrealistic because previously it's kind of like the strings were the strings were the quiet ones, which is real, and then the snap pitches, or some people call them Bartok pitches, were louder, and that translated more to real life, at least from my experience. But now it's kind of opposite. Strings are louder, snap pitches are quieter. So yeah, so pretty much like I said, the biggest improvements were in brass. Woodwinds didn't change that much, strings didn't change too much. The choir sounds a lot better, piano sounds better, some percussion sounds better. There's some more options in percussion, which is nice, because Noteperformer didn't have too many options, and they still don't compared to like Vienna's percussion. But of course that costs a few $100 just for percussion, and you get all this for what, 120? So yeah, this is a big improvement, and I highly recommend it for anyone to get. So here it is, Noteperformer.com. You can have a 30-day trial. It used to only work with Sibelius, but now it's for Finale and Dorico, which is awesome. It's only $129, which is crazy for this, for what you get with this compared to its competitors, especially Vienna. And apparently you get 5 copies for $200, which is pretty great. So and of course, you can do what I did if you have the previous version and get a free upgrade. I've had it for 2 years. I started with Noteperformer 2, then 2.5, and now 3, and with all the little upgrades in between. And you can go through and look at all the instruments they have, all these special techniques. You can listen to some demos, and yeah, just a couple different things, and it's pretty great. Highly recommend. Thank you for watching. Look for the link of the consortium in the comments, and yeah, see you next time.